Happy to be here. Appreciate you having me.
No, not a problem. I guess while we are waiting for the rest of the panelists, if you could just get started from what school you're repping and where you graduated from. Okay, Preston's here. Hey, Preston.
Hey there, how you doing?
I'm good. Okay, I guess we'll just wait for Riley to get on. I'll just leave you guys to do your session, and then you guys can go.
We can start right now?
But yeah, you can start. We're just going to try to get Riley in.
Awesome. Sounds good. Thank you. Well, welcome everyone. Appreciate your guys' time. We're here to lead the panel on navigating the sports industry. Before we kind of dive in, I'll give a little bit of an agenda first of some of the questions that we're going to ask, and then get into our bios. And of course, we can answer any questions you guys might have in the chat. For some background, first of all, and there's Riley. Hello, Riley.
Hello.
Awesome. So to give you guys some context, like we all know, sports is just a really difficult industry to break into. I think that's the first thing that comes to mind. I myself, just for some background, I graduated from Stanford, class of 2014, and then worked at the NBA for almost 3 years, first through the associate rotation program, which I know Marissa is currently in. Yep. And then I shifted to CBS Interactive, where I worked actually on the CBS News platform, primarily doing digital marketing there. But I also got to work a lot on CBS Sports. So I have about 5 years or so in the media entertainment industry, and I can talk a lot about just my experience in terms of breaking in. But before I do that and kind of allow the panel to give their story as well, actually would love to just briefly give an introduction to Riley and Marissa. So actually just quickly, Riley, for those of you who don't know, is graduating from St. John's University in May with her Bachelor's of Science in Sports Management with a business concentration. And upon completion, she will be attending graduate school to pursue her master's in sports business. So while in undergrad, she served as a women's basketball manager, president and co-founder of WISE, which stands for Women in Sports and Entertainment. She's the chair of Student Government's Budget Committee, and she's done a variety of other things, but has a deep devotion to sports. And I'm sure that that's something that will probably be a running theme in the panel in terms of a passion for the industry, which I'm sure is the minimum that you would probably want to express if you're trying to break in. We'll get into that later. But frankly, she's worked in a variety of internships, everything from Sports One marketing. She's worked in modeling agencies, currently at AGM Sports. So that's just Riley's background in a nutshell. And for Marissa, I know, Marissa, you frankly you're part of the associate rotation program right now. And I think I personally have gotten a lot of questions about it myself. I think if you wouldn't mind maybe sharing a little bit about your background to that point, and then briefly touching on what that associate program experience has been like for you.
Yeah, sure. So I recently graduated from California State University East Bay in May 2019, so about a year ago. And my background is kind of, it's pretty extensive, but I interned with the Golden State Warriors, NBC Sports Bay Area, the LA Sparks, digital marketing with which is Universal Media, and also Scout Sports Entertainment. But I'm currently with the MBA Associate Program, which is a 2-year rotational program. And what that is, goes through 4 business rotations over 6 months. And so I just recently ended with the WMBA in Business Operations and Strategy. And I'm currently with GCMD, which stands for Global Media Distribution and Business Affairs. So that's everything contractual on the media front. So our ESPN deals, our deals with Turner, all of our local and national deals. So that's kind of everything I'm doing right now. But the associate program is pretty incredible, just to get a full scope of the MBA business in full. And that's kind of what I'm experiencing right now.
Awesome. Thank you, Marissa. Let's kind of jump off of that. And Riley, I'd like to start with you on this question, which is, what was the one internship or experience that you can point to that propelled your interest in the sports industry? And I think related to that would be helpful, I think, for the audience to know and get some advice as to how to actually break into this industry. What are some concrete things you could recommend?
Absolutely. So I know that I've always had a passion for sports, like you mentioned earlier. I played every sport under the sun. And then from that, around my senior year of high school, preparing for the SATs, I was like, I actually want to turn my passion into what I want to do in the future. So it took me a while to actually find my niche in the sports industry because it is so broad. You know, you can do anything from media, broadcasting, agency, working for the league. So just through those experiences, I actually attended USOC, which is, I attended the FLAME program, which stands for United States Olympic Committee. And there they brought 30 undergraduate and graduate students around the United States to participate in a 2-week program. And we just had different speakers, people from who won gold medalists. We had different people from the USOC. And there I met one specific person that you all may be familiar with, Alexis Feaster, who does player development for the NBA. Yeah. And I did my research on her before she came. And after she did her speech, I was like, that's what I want to do. So I particularly didn't find my niche until it was presented to me, because I can do all the research, right? But it was something that was maybe unorthodox. Most people may find their niche through internships, so they see what they like and what they don't like. But that definitely sparked my interest and sparked my passion. And that's what I'm going to pursue further on. So yes,
awesome.
That's mostly what happened.
That's great.
Yeah. And Marissa, how about yourself?
Yeah, the internship that kind of turned it around for me was my first internship, which was with the LA Sparks. If you guys aren't familiar with it, it's a WNBA team in Los Angeles, where I'm originally from. I was initially interested in broadcasting and wanted to be a sports broadcaster so bad. But it kind of shifted with that internship with the Sparks. I kind of got to see the business of sports instead, and I just kind of fell in love with it, especially on the women's professional side. I was like, okay, I'm in this space and I really have an opportunity to grow the game on the business side. So why don't I insert myself in this space? And so I kind of became obsessed with it, networking with everyone I could while in that internship. And it sort of changed my life around. The Sparks is a great internship because you kind of get to see the full scope of everything. Whereas when you're with the Warriors, you're siloed into one department because it's so big. But with the Sparks, it's a little bit smaller and you get to touch different areas. And I kind of just, like I said, I became obsessed and just wanting to really be involved in the business of sports. And that's the internship that changed my life around.
Really appreciate that. And I actually want to build off that. So now that you guys are both in, well-established sports organizations, the NBA and AGM right now, I'd love to better ask, just kind of pinpoint, what were the things that you really emphasized in your application, in your resume, in your interview that made you think stand out in breaking into those industries? Because, sports interest alone, I've had many people come to me personally and ask, they say that they're a big fan, that they're invested, they have all these thoughts on the business, but it doesn't really amount to anything if you can't actually show your business acumen, for example, or demonstrate certain skills that are probably transferable across industries. So I would love to, that's just my perspective at a high level, but I'd love to get a sense from both of you, starting with you, Marissa. What did you actually do to highlight yourself for such a, selective program to start the associate program?
Yeah, I think what was key was leadership. Just being able to really step into spaces and show that you can own a space and take full advantage of the different opportunities that are there for you. So throughout college, I was always on boards. I was always just going the extra mile. And I think that really showed on my resume and just in my interview in full. One thing that also really, really stood out, and it ties to leadership as well, I wasn't getting opportunities at first. I didn't get my first internship till my sophomore year in college. And so I created my own platform called Lemonade on the Bleachers, where I was covering women in sports and women empowerment. And I think that leadership aspect really just kind of gave me that edge to show that even if I'm not presented an opportunity, I'll make one for myself. And that's going to carry yourself through the business of sports as well. Not everything is going to work when you're going into sponsorship deals or different, deals all across the board. You really have to take that step and say, but I'm going to make it work and we're going to figure out a way. And I think that's kind of what separated me in that space.
That's awesome. And I love the idea of being a leader and creating a niche for yourself by creating your own content. I think that's a great fallback if you're not able to land something right away. How about you, Riley?
Yes, so definitely I'm still breaking into the industry, being that I am going to graduate. But what I have done thus far really is being a go-getter. I've created, like Marissa has platforms for myself, such as WISE, Women in Sports Entertainment. And I never settled. I went to my faculty. I chose my network in school, through classmates. I think that's something that we as students, we tend to lack of is, we're looking for outside direction in terms of trying to get opportunities, but it really starts in the classroom. And I was actually able, through my internship, there was somebody in my class who had another internship, and we were able to bring our internships together and help one another. So there's really opportunities in the classroom, and then just being, like I said, a go-getter and making opportunities for yourself, and always looking to see what is the next step that I can take, what is the next program that I can join, what is the next opportunity in sports industry that somebody may not be thinking of or not knowing of. So always just propelling myself to the next stage and never settling, most definitely.
That's great. Yeah. And I might just add, myself from my own perspective. What I would actually recommend highly is finding finding a mentor, finding someone that's in the organization that you're targeting. I frankly had no connection to the NBA before getting into the associate program. I went on LinkedIn, I found all the associates. I thought of a thoughtful note to basically just say, hey, look, I'm a diehard fan. I think someone in the previous section said really lean on your personality when it comes to building those connections. And, all they can do is say no, right? And so you just got to reach out and make sure that you have a sense of what it's like to be in there. And I think one person said it best when they talked about you want to know the role as super well when you come in before even getting there. So you interview people that are in that role just to learn more about what it's actually like day to day so that you can predict what's going to be asked. And that's essentially what I did just to break in. But anyway, on to maybe transitioning from breaking in to now what the actual work is like, and I think, Riley, I want to start with you. I know that you're just starting right now and, with AGM right now. And you frankly, I'm curious if there are any big learnings that you've taken so far, either from your current work experience or your previous one that you think could propel you in sports throughout.
Definitely. So I am working with AGM Sports as a startup agency. So there's a lot of proponents and there's a lot of different things that need to be taken care of. And I definitely have been able to expand my skill set, not only from handling the social media to recruiting players, to speaking to different agents and different players and how to navigate those spaces. So definitely with AGM Sports, I'm just wearing a lot of different hats that I can utilize for future jobs because, in a regular, large corporation, you may not get to do all these different things. You may just stick to that one pool every day. So through AGM, definitely I'm doing that. And one of the things that I really learned that I think will be interesting is that I am working closely with players and I'm working close with players' families. And, doing player development, it's almost you're working with the player, you're working with the family, you're working with the league. So I think that in that aspect, I'm grateful that it can essentially prepare me for my future with sports.
Awesome. How about you, Marissa?
Yeah, I think as I kind of alluded to earlier, the associate program is a bit of a unique space. So I'm going through different workspaces. So I can speak on the W a little bit. With the W, I was on the business ops and strategy. And so the W is very, very unique where we are building the brand. It's kind of like a startup type thing. And so we're kind of always just experimenting. And so when I was there, it was just like coming up with different ideas on how we can grow the game, whether that comes to our draft, which turned into be a virtual draft, if you guys saw, or just kind of figuring out how do we tell player stories in a different manner. It's all about strategy and really finding ways we can connect these players in different ways to grow the game, because we understand we have an on-court product, but how can we extend far beyond outside of that? So that's kind of what I was doing there. On the flip side, GMD is a totally different thing. And so my job responsibilities are completely different. Everything's very contractual, reading a ton of contracts that just kind of go through our different media deals on how we can renegotiate things considering the pandemic at this point. And the rest is kind of disclosed, so I can't speak too much about it, but that's kind of high level what we're doing and how we're kind of trying to push the game out there with the current setting right now.
That's awesome. And I'll speak to that as well. So for my background at the NBA, I was involved with marketing partnerships. So specifically, think of us as the in-house agency that develops a lot of the sponsorship programs that you'll see with State Farm, Kia, Gatorade, and crafting those proposals and then pitching it to a lot of our existing clients or new business, right? So I think there are three big things that come to mind that I actually am now. I'm not even in the sports industry. I'm actually an MBA student at MIT right now. So like very different, but I found that these skills are incredibly useful in any industry. And I'm now in startups and I'm in a totally different space. But I'll tell you that it's about empathy and really being able to ask insightful questions that uncover a lot of pain points. Because when you think about marketing, you're not just putting out a message, you're solving a problem. You're solving a problem so that you really are able to kind of be consultative in what solutions you're offering to a client. So that I think is the first and foremost, the biggest thing. The second is actually something that doesn't get a lot of credit, but I think it's incredibly important. And that's presentation skills. That's public speaking. And that's frankly, a lot of it comes down to your body language, your tone, things that frankly are overlooked, but there are some great resources. There's actually a great book called Made to Stick. I would highly recommend it for anybody. It talks about how you really tell a really impactful story that sticks. And that's something that in any marketing or sales initiative, that's going to come through. And then finally, I would just say like the big thing that I learned is always be curious. I was setting up like meetings with people across the NBA from all different departments once a week, every single lunch. It was a set time. And I think if you can develop a routine, even if don't have a job yet, but we're all kind of trapped in our homes right now, having a kind of a routine to make sure you're meeting people regularly is something I would at least recommend. I think maybe one other question now is more tied to, frankly, I guess now that you guys have been in the industry for, throughout several internships or now Marissa for you full time, with the NBA, what are some of the exciting trends or things that you're seeing in the space, given your unique perspective in the industry, that maybe people aren't thinking about? So, Riley, I'll start with you. Is there anything that comes top of mind?
Most definitely. Just in recent events, the NFL draft. This was the first time in history that the majority of the first round picks, their agents were Black. I believe 17 out of 32 had Black agents. And historically, our players or NFL athletes have been represented by our white counterparts. So I thought that was a really historical moment, and that showed that we're earning a seat at the table. And I think that is a trend that's going to continue not only in the NFL, but the NBA, and not also to mention women. Shout out to Agent Nicole Lynn. I bet a lot of people are familiar with her, but she had a first-round draft pick last year. She had another first-round draft pick this year, and she just became a certified NBA agent. So I thought that was also something that's going to continue to progress for women in sports. And also with my agency, I work with a certified NCAA agent, and she's a certified NBA agent, and she is also a Black woman navigating these spaces. So I definitely see that there's going to be a trend there where we are going to impact those spaces, and we're going to have a really great experience through that, because I see people that look like me, and that didn't happen before. I was interested in the sports industry, just even 6 years ago, I wasn't seeing that. So definitely there has been an exponential growth of Black and brown faces in the sports industry, not on the court, but working the back office. So I really appreciate that. And I definitely see it going upward.
Yeah.
Awesome. How about you, Marissa?
Yeah, that's an excellent point, Riley. I love that you spoke on that. Very well said. For me, I think it's the in-venue stadium experience. That's a major trend that's going on. I think because the game is so accessible now on streaming platforms such as Twitch, or you have ESPN Plus, all these different platforms, we really have to find a way to, revolutionize the game and make it more exciting to get the fan in the stadium. Because right now they're two options are why should I go to a game if I can just watch it on TV? So we really have to figure out a way in those stadiums to really change that. And so it's a matter of maybe we implement VR. We just do something different inside these stadiums so that we can get the fan returning. And so I think that's going to continue to evolve. And it's a trend that we see. Stadiums aren't normal anymore. With the Rams stadium being built, it's entirely different than we're ever going to see, such as the Warriors as well. Entirely different stadium or arena, I should say. And so this is a trend that's going to continue to evolve, and it's what's going to have the fan kind of come back and return rather than just looking at their TV the entire time.
It's awesome. That's really cool. What about let's have a little bit of a rapid fire fun topics to kind of touch on. Favorite sports figure and why? Would love to start. Marissa, with you.
Favorite sports figure. I have a few, but I'll say Serena Williams. Just because I'm LA homegrown and so is she. And so it's kind of just an emotional bond there. But what she just does for Black women and women of color, I think she's just constantly breaking the barrier and shattering glass ceilings. And she's completely incredible. On the WNBA side, I'll give it to Candace Parker, though.
Cool. How about you, Riley?
Definitely, I have to stick with my Warriors. I'm from the Bay Area as well. So, we had a rough season, but we're coming back. So definitely one of my favorite players would have to be, of course, Steph Curry, who's leading the pack. I think that he's doing a great thing for the Bay Area and his family. They are like the quintessential ideal family, and I think that that's something that's great, that's representing and has a positive impact on the community as well. So definitely bringing it back home.
That's awesome.
And you?
Mine would be Trae Young because I'm from Atlanta, and while we're not a great basketball team, I gotta rep him hard. Yeah, I see someone with a Stephen A. Smith comment. No comment there, but I'll leave it there. How about let's also ask about just in general, what are for the people out there, what's the one piece of advice you would give to someone who is frankly not in your shoes but would like to be in your shoes? Riley, I'll start with you.
Definitely, like I said, networking, relationships. That's honestly the key, because in the sports industry, I've come to realize that you have to be very sociable and personable. And I think that those relationships, it extends further than just the initial, hello, I would like to receive your advice, XYZ. It goes past that. You have to continue to check on that person, and you have to continue to build that relationship and nurture it over the years, because that's what sports is your network and different pieces of your network. So definitely that's something that I would suggest to somebody, because you can start networking anywhere. You can start networking right now, even in the quarantine. That's the time where you build it, because your network is your backbone in the industry. So that would be my advice. Network, everyone.
Marissa.
Yeah, to kind of piggyback off of that, I think it's find a mentor, find someone who you can really, speak to and can help lead you into these different spaces, because you can't do it alone. And having someone, especially someone who looks like you, that can help you navigate these industries is extremely valuable. One of my mentors is a former COO of the Sparks, and her name's Christine Simmons, and she's basically taught me everything I know, and I can attribute a lot of my success to her and just helping me and just helping lead the way and holding that door open. I think that's what mentors are for, and especially a sponsor as well. We have mentors and we have sponsors. Someone who can speak to your work, who's in the industry already, and can really advocate for you in these spaces, because you can't always do it yourself, like I said. And so if you have someone in the room saying, hey, this person can do this, this, and that, because I've seen it, I think that's super valuable.
How did you build that relationship with her as a mentor? Like, was it organic, or did you actually what were some steps you took?
It's kind of just, taking risk, kind of like the networking and not being afraid to go up to someone and introduce yourself and say, hey, this is who I am and this is what I want to do, and how you can kind of be an asset to me. But with that relationship, it was basically, introducing myself and telling my story and my background and what my goal and vision was, and just shadowing the person, following up, and not just being a one-time thing saying, oh, I'm just here to just smile in your face type thing, but I really want to learn from you. And I think those relationships kind of build over time once you do that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would add, if there's one thing I would say, it's, well, I'm going to make it two, I'm going to cheat, but two. One is being extra resourceful, vigilant, proactive. And the second is be concise. So on the resourceful, proactive side, at least at the NBA, there's a lot of opportunity to put your head up from your day-to-day work and look to see what's around. I fell into sports because I did just that, where I was working in media sales, but for entertainment altogether. I decided to go downstairs one floor in Turner's offices in Atlanta, and I saw that someone was working on NBA Digital, and I immediately jumped on that. And I think if you're just frankly conscious of what's around you, just making sure you're not going tunnel vision on your work but make sure you do your good work, but then make sure to look around. That's the biggest thing there. And asking a lot of questions and working with your manager to find small projects that you can work on the side. And on the concise part, I'm not doing a great job as I'm articulating now, but I'll just say written communication. You can always trim it down to be a lot less than what you already have on paper. I often read my emails that I'm sending out to people I'm networking for the first time, and I find myself trimming down a sentence or two, and that makes all the difference in the world. If you need someone to proofread it, I think that's underrated, and that will definitely lead to higher conversion when it comes to networking. So there you have it. We really are just at the end of this panel right now, right at time. So with that, I'm going to turn it back over to our host, Deandra, and take it from there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yo.
Thank you to everyone who came. This was absolutely great. Thank you, Preston, Riley, and Marissa. This was so good. The content was like a wealth of knowledge, especially for people who want to get into sports entertainment and like merging those realms together. So thank you all for being here. We're definitely going to introduce our next session. Hey, Deandra.
Hey. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Sure, no problem. Thank you guys.
Oh, wait, before you guys leave, can you guys put any contact information or anyone can contact you guys?
Yeah.
Put it in the chat.
Oh yeah, or you could say it verbally.
Yes, you can put that there.
Cool.
Okay.
Thank you guys.
My Instagram is Riley, Riley, Jean, Jeanx. And then my LinkedIn is just my first and last name, Riley Parker. Okay. So definitely looking forward to connecting with my fellow students and definitely building our network that way. So thank you so much for the opportunity, and I appreciate it.
No problem.
Yeah. For me, my
LinkedIn's for coming.
my name. My LinkedIn's my name, Marissa Marshall, and then my Instagram is my name as well, Marissa Marshall. Thank you for having me.
Yep. Feel free to on LinkedIn and put my email there, pchin, PCHIN @mit.edu.
Okay. Thank you guys.